Hey, hey. Hi, guys. Welcome back. All right, let's get into a signs and symbols message for the day. We shall see what we've got here. We've got the Four of Cups. That Four of Cups energy is a disappointment. It's somebody where it feels like they made a wrong turn somewhere. They lost half of what they really wanted. This is a big disappointment. They feel like they didn't think things out thoroughly. They feel like they made a mistake somewhere. This could be, man, why didn't I see the full picture when I made that decision? We have the full moon. Yeah, it definitely says our character, like, this is reminiscing for sure, because this is something that they already made a mistake over. This is something they didn't stop and see the full picture. There was too much, like, occluded. Maybe they didn't listen to their heart. Maybe they couldn't hear what their heart was saying, and now it's so obvious. Um, a symbol of the day could be seeing a skeleton or a brain, and bizarrely, I'm thinking like candy that looks like brains. Aren't there like gummy candies or something that look like brains? We have the Courier of Fire, so that page of wands there. We have the Ten of Fire, and we have the Pisces energy, which speaks to me very heavily of love that is romanticized, but also it's like, always just out of reach a little bit. I think that the thing this character is thinking so heavily about the awareness of the disappointment of the past. Like, if only had seen it that way before, if only I had thought of it that way before, if only. This is a big burden to still carry, right? That Ten of Wands, big burden. This is heavy on them all the time when they're at work, all day. They also have unspoken words. You notice how he carries a letter under his arm. They carry this, the pages are messengers, right? And this is somebody who carries these words, like maybe from the heart that they never spoke. They I don't know if they stayed isolated or if they believed that, what, we're too different, we come from different worlds, this will never work. But that's like, why didn't I find a way? Why did I let this relationship end? Why did I not fight for this? Why did I assume that there was no way? Even in this case, this person can be with the mermaid because he can put on his scuba suit and he can dive to the bottom of the sea to be with her. She maybe can't come and leave the sea to be with him, but he could have found a way to be in her world. Instead, it was like, oh, this is just doomed. There's too many obstacles. But this, I think, is what weighs on him so heavily. I think this is someone who walked away from the love of a lifetime because it seemed too complicated. And they're like, how is it that I didn't see the solution? The solution was there. Now, they could be a Pisces. They could have been in love with a Pisces, or this could have just been like the dream. Pisces is very associated with the dreamscape. We have the wild unknown. It's all about, like, oh my God, he's living and reminiscing right now. What could have been, what might have been, the wild unknown. If I had just gone through that doorway, how could I possibly have failed to just follow my heart? Why couldn't I see a pathway? And he's like, well, I didn't see it then, but why didn't I risk it? Why didn't I go ahead and try for this? Why didn't I make the leap for love? It would have been going into the unknown. I'm wondering if this is like two people that lived in different cultures or something. And it's like, oh, for this to work, like I'd have to uproot and go live there, or, maybe he had more mobility. Maybe he could have traveled, or he could have gone to see her, or he could have entered into her world, but he didn't do it. Instead, he let this love go. And this is very much, it doesn't go away. The awareness of what's been lost is actually weighing heavier. Losing this connection because he didn't make the leap for love, and he didn't see the solution. He does now. Some kind of like walking by an open door that has a very mysterious, like darkened interior, could also be a symbol of the day. Also, an uncracked egg. We have like, it's the potential there, right? We never even tried to make the omelet. We never cracked the egg. We never even tried. And so an uncracked egg could be a symbol of the day. I like a lace top, but God, they itch sometimes. We got the Gemini energy. It's like in a parallel universe, the other me did. If only, I wonder how the other me is doing. If only I had been that version of me that would have taken that leap. It is very much that I think this masculine is like, maybe that's even why their brain is split down the middle, because it's like, what would have happened if I had? Okay, let me put it this way. Character, you're alive. She's alive. I don't really know why, if you are lamenting this heavily, the road not taken, then why are you, when you have this much regret, why are you not trying to still take that road? Let me ask that question. Why, if you're consumed with this regret, why are you not trying? We have Merchant, but we have the High Priest in the reverse. This High Priest in this deck is interesting because normally if we see the High Priest, it's actually the Hierophant, which is different than the High Priestess, right? Sometimes they'll call the Hierophant the High Priest. So that should be card 5, and it should be Taurus. However, this is High Priest, but it's card 10, which then would be the Wheel of Fortune. Now, this is not a traditional deck, so we don't really have to adhere to any of that, but I kind of think of it as a merged energy of Wheel of Fortune combined with the Hierophant. So I look at it as like divine connection to one's higher self and the awareness of divine timing at play. But this kind of says the reason this character is sitting in all this regret, reminiscing, seeing the path not taken, saying, if only my other self had done this, or if me in a parallel universe had done this, I wonder how it would have turned out. And I'm saying, well, why don't you go find out, since you're still alive and it's very capable, you're very capable of trying at least. And the answer to that is he doesn't see that as an option. Once again, he sees it as, I've gone too far down the road. I've my life has wound me so many other places. I'm so far down the road. He's a traveling merchant. His life has taken him on other pathways now. But he just wants to sit in regret. I guess here's my thought on this, is that if you sit in regret, because the mind is such a powerful thing, we take ourselves places in our minds. And to take ourselves into the realm of regret and to live in the past, are you really that far away? Because I'd say you're right back there. You're right back, exactly remembering her, remembering the moment that you didn't choose the path that you wish you had. So did you ever move on from it? It's, you can say, I'm so far away from that now. There's no way back. And I would argue you never left. You have been standing basically like on the other side of just a door. That's it. She's on the other side of the door, and you never actually went anywhere because you've lived in this regret. Your memory bank keeps you right where you always were, which is wishing you had done this. But this person in this storyline, they have a maddening ability to not see that they hold power to make their own life be what they want it to be. They continuously say, it's, I don't see the solution. I don't see the solution. But the solution for all of this, I think, would be, you're in charge. You want to talk to her? Go talk to her. There's a million different ways to communicate to somebody. Pick up the phone, write to them, email them. We're thankfully in a world full of communication availabilities and like different methods of communication. So, but he does not. We have the Justice card here. Justice talks about an injustice, right? It's when something has been done wrong. This could say that she's moved on. This could say that even though he's sitting there in this tremendous regret of why didn't I mean, it's obvious she's the one that got away in this story, right? Venus and the white stag sideways. For the Justice card of Libra, by the way, she could be a Libra. The fact that he doesn't see a way back actually says, look, he's maybe once upon a time he just decided to make it kind of a callous decision. Oh, this isn't going to work. I'm not going to do this. But then the repercussion of that decision is kind of like the karma, right? Some time passes and you realize, my God, I'll never get over her. She's the one. She's the one that I wish. Why did I do this? And they still can't see a way to undo it. And that is their karma. The poor choice they made is a poor choice they continue to make. And they simply have to sit in what that feels like, which is tremendous disappointment. But in the meantime, it looks like she is this goddess of love over here. We do have the spiritual side with that white stag. This is a divine connection. Can we see anything just more specific about her? By the way, somebody could be seeing the image of like a reindeer or a white deer, an albino deer. I know it's out of season, but somebody could see something like a Santa Claus reindeer, like maybe at a yard sale or something, some decoration or something that could be out of place a little bit. Also something to do with goddesses, because we have Venus and we also have the Temple of Artemis here. So I'm thinking that Greek goddesses, the names of the goddesses, something along those lines could also show up for our character today. Courier of air and the 3 of water. It's not that she doesn't think about them sometimes. She does. But I gotta say, I think she's got another relationship in her life. And maybe that's just it. There's obviously somebody else in love with her. It doesn't mean that she doesn't still think about them from time to time, though, as that person far away, somebody very closed off, somebody that she remembers them as being ice cold. They were the dark, scary house on the hill. They were the place that there's not even like a decent driveway or anything. This is like they made themselves so remote. And although she remembers that and she remembers them, she's kind of, I think, washing herself clean of this. Literally, this feminine could be somebody who loves taking showers, taking baths. She may be somebody that actually also does like aura cleansing, in which case you don't have to use water or anything. It's more just like an energy dust off. But I'm thinking that she remembers them, obviously, because we've got this thought bubble here. But this kind of reminds me of that Pisces card where it's like they were so isolated and all they saw was our differences. They didn't see how we could have ever been together. But I don't think this person's going to end up with anybody. They're going to end up in the house up on the hill. They talk to nobody. Nobody comes around, and they just stay in separation from the world. And I think she's acknowledging that that's their preference, but she's washing her hands clean of that whole situation. Somebody may have a black and white tiled floor, possibly in their bathroom, or they go someplace, maybe a restaurant or something that has a black and white tiled floor. It's very retro. Here it's more classy though, and classic, instead of like, the bobby sock, retro 1950s, dance hall look. But I just feel like she's in a totally different space. She's not lamenting this. They are, though. So I feel like this feminine is in a completely different energy. I mean, there is lingering karma because of this mistake that they made in believing there was no way to be together. We have air and we have the 5 of air, and he literally is writing, I have nothing to say. He does not seem to be, yet anyway, coming to any conclusions about, if you know you made the wrong turn at some point in your life, you walked away from the love of your life, you didn't fight for the connection, you just thought, you know what, this probably would be too troublesome. We come from different places, we won't work. I can just shut down on love and go some other place. It turns out you can't shut down love. If you do love that person, you find a way to make it work. However, they said, I think that they're maybe a very cold, logical mind. They're mad at themselves right now. I have to say that they're in a very bad mood right now on this storyline. They're very mad at their own choices, but they have to logic their way through this as well. This person sits always in their brain and forgets that they have a heart. even though the only reason they're so miserable right now is because they basically did their heart wrong. They did their heart dirty. Very tough message for them, but they have to decide what they're going to do, what they're going to think, and how they're going to operate in life. They haven't figured that bit out yet. So they got a lot of growing still to do. They have a lot more to logic their way through. There could be a thunderstorm, thunder and lightning storm, wherever this character is. Somebody could have a favorite like teacup and saucer, or they're at a restaurant and they're handed teacup and saucer. Could have coffee in it, but it's a teacup. And then we also may have a compass, or somebody who's paying attention to the dials on their vehicle. Don't let a car overheat. There's something here. Also, don't let the car run out of gas. Check the gauges. Maybe they also work in an industry where there's a lot of instruments, gauges, that could be any kind of machinery that they use or something. But it's time to gauge what they really want. And the way they have to do that is they got to think through it. But every time they think about this, they just get upset. They're mad. I think that they're mad at themselves because they made the wrong turn and they keep saying there's no way back. If they're going to sit in that energy, they're going to stay in that energy. If they're not going to say, I can't let this be the way it goes, I have to find a solution. They will come to some kind of a solution, but they may blow a fuse before they do that. Like they may be really like upset and frustrated and maybe have a meltdown and cry. If they're driving, I hope they pull over to the side of the road, because they're in a very foul mood over this whole thing, because they keep saying, and there's no way to fix it. And it's too late. It's too late. When really they could have and should have tried to fix it. I know it looks like she's maybe moved on, but at the same time, man, she embodies love. There was so much love there. And so I don't know what would happen if they returned to her. For the moment though, this is just them acknowledging that they made an epic wrong turn in their life. It's very, very sad for them because they're sitting and stewing in that right now. But you live, you learn, and then you learn how to make better decisions. So, all right, I'm going to leave that there. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Thanks for giving it a thumbs up and subscribing. Bye.